A little bit of a high level overview of the agenda we're going to go through today. So we are going to cover 2025 in review. Some tips and tricks are going to be inputted in there. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on, what you can look forward to in 2026 as well. And then we're going to show some early access to site plans and more. And there's also going to be a Q&A at the end. So I will say, if you do have questions, if you have stuff like that, we're not going to answer them all right away because there's a lot of people on this webinar right now. We're going to save that for the end. And we'll kind of pick out, if we don't get to your questions today, don't fear. If you leave it in the chat or you fill out the survey that we send afterwards, we will make a point to reach out to you afterwards. So don't worry if your question's not answered right away. We will try and get to everyone no matter what, whether that's on the webinar live or after the fact as well. Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, a little bit of additional housekeeping today. So this section is going to cover highlights and what's next. So what happened in 2025 and what's coming in 2026. This isn't a hands-on training. So just, I love to give that FYI because I know some people come on and they're really excited and they think this is going to be, you know, a 101 session. That's not this today, but I do want to let anybody know if they are looking for a 101, 102 hands-on training sessions. We do run those weekly. So if you go to the website, there is a webinars tab there for 101 and 102. You can sign up Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a couple different spots and time frames available. Also, you can reach out to the customer success team if you want to book some time. The email is there and it will be shared afterwards as well. Okay. Before we jump in actually to this, I'm jumping ahead too much. I wanted to introduce ourselves. So I think we got the housekeeping out of the way. So I've been talking so far. I'm Kyla, Kyla McEachran on the customer success team. So I've probably talked to some people on this call. There's probably a lot that I haven't talked to before. And I'm going to kind of take through what happened this year, and then I'm going to pass it over to my co-host.
Yeah, I'm Cassandra. I also go by Cass. So I'm a product manager here at Planetar, makers of iGUIDE, and I'm basically responsible for some of the projects that we'll be seeing in 2026, but also just work with a lot of like the planning team. So some, albeit probably very few of you heard from me with respect to maybe some customer interviews, but otherwise, again, I'll kind of be looking at the forward-looking stuff, and I might slide to the left and let Kyla take over from here.
Yeah, you guys are all going to be very excited, I'm sure, for what's coming. So let's do a quick look at what happened in 2025, or by the numbers. So what you can see on the screen above is a quick snapshot look at some of the high-level numbers from last year, from this year, I guess. It's not quite over yet. It's 2 more weeks. So we had iGUIDEs in 49 countries in 2025 versus 42 in 2024. So growing that number, getting into more spaces, which is really exciting. We also had iGUIDEs in 321 provinces or states across those different countries, which is, again, just over 20, or not quite 20 more than last year. So again, iGUIDE's getting into more spaces, more places, and we're getting into more cities as well. As you can see there, we crossed the 10,000 cities mark after being at 9,400 in 2024. So all of that to say, some really exciting news. We're really growing into different areas. I know I saw out of the corner of my eye, someone said territories in Canada. Yes, provinces, states, territories, all of the above across different countries are included in this metric. So really exciting times and lots of growth that has been going on. I also like to call this out. So in 2025, the smallest iGUIDEs produced were actually 1 square foot. And this happened 10 times throughout 2025. And we actually had, I think I ran the numbers earlier, we had 34 under the size of 5 square foot. Now, I'm sure you guys are wondering, like, what is that? What are you scanning that's at? More than likely, what that is someone had to go back on site and rescan maybe a closet or a small space that wasn't covered when you were originally scanning the iGUIDE. So I always use this time to give you guys a bit of a tips and tricks because it is more common than you think to forget a small little area within a house or a big commercial property. And then sometimes you do have to go back and scan again. So we did have quite a few 1 square foot and up to 5 square foot as well. So my tip and trick is always, if you can, we actually have someone here who always gives out door stoppers when they are working with new clients. And the reason is just go around, open those doors if you can, put that door stopper in so that you don't miss that location around when you're scanning. On the other side, really exciting number is that we did have a 1 million square foot scanned in one iGUIDE in 2025. We actually had a couple over 500,000 square feet as well. So really exciting, really large spaces. And my tips and tricks for these really, really, really large spaces as well is I actually chat with people about this. If you've ever got a size this big, reach out to the customer success team ahead of time because there might be some tips and tricks that we can give you before you even go out and have to scan this space. Is it a really open space? Is it a space like an office space with lots of office rooms that you have to go into each time. And when it gets that big, is it worth having one big iGUIDE or is it worth breaking it up into multiple different iGUIDEs because it'll be easier for someone to digest or process depending on your use case for the iGUIDE. So it's really exciting. We did get a 1 million square foot one. I believe this was a really open space and it was actually a parking garage. So that's a very exciting one as well. But I always say if you got those bigger iGUIDEs, I do recommend you reach out to us because we can really help basically strategize how you're going to go out and shoot that space, what's the best use case for you, make it best for you and for your clients who you're delivering to as well. Okay, a little bit of a timeline for 2025. There was lots that happened this year. So when we were putting this together, I was actually very excited that there were so many different things at various points in the year that kind of touched every different industry. And I'll go into a little bit more depth for each and every single one of those, but just a high level timeline. In late, actually 2024, but early this year, we launched the R1 and made some updates to it. And we also added the SLAM feature into both the R1 and Pro and Planx Pro cameras. So if you don't know what the SLAM feature is, that is the feature where it gives you kind of that color coordination when you're moving around and scanning and lets you know if you are aligned with your previous data. So it's green, yellow, red. Red means stop, take a step back and go back to where your last scan was so that you can get realigned with your scans there. We also had a really exciting launch of 2D furniture and objects in the month of April. So a lot of you who get premium iGUIDEs will have seen that. We relaunched the Ion directory. So the Ion directory was previously in a different map, and we've moved it over to a better, more interactive map that you can connect to your Google Business profile. You can bring over your reviews from your Google Business profile, and you can link a little bit more customizability to yourself and how people can reach out and message you. If you're not on that app, if you're not on that right now, I do recommend getting on it. What it really enables you to do is put your hand up and say that you're available to create iGUIDEs. And if someone's searching, they can find you right on that map. So if you aren't aware of what it is and you want help getting set up and started, please feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to get you added. Then in June, we launched the Xactimate integration for our 3D walkthrough tours. I'll go through that in a second as well. And then in July, we had a bunch going on. We had our ADS deliverables or advanced drafting services. We changed up the structure of that a bit based on feedback to allow people to more customize what they wanted. Instead of having to get everything in a package, you were able to pick various options kind of ad hoc, which again, I'll go through a little more in a second. Finally, we had the tag report and the industry specific reporting, which was launched in the same month. And then in September, so just a couple months ago, we did launch our HD Photo Hub integration. So anybody with HD Photo Hub now has a two-way integration there as well. Before we get into that timeline and those specifics a little bit more, we did want to talk a little bit more about what's been going on and some of the other stuff we've produced for iGUIDE. So we spent a lot of time this year working closely with customers across different industries. So not just real estate, just different industries and understanding how different people are using iGUIDE in unique and different ways. So we created a ton of content on YouTube and social content highlighting those customers and their different use cases. We collected amazing customer testimonials that reflect real business impact and opportunities that were unlocked. And we launched a partnership with Mike Holmes and Matt Rinsler from The Build Show, which was my dad's favorite show when I was younger, to reach new audiences in construction, inspection, and beyond. So that was really exciting. And then a kind of a familiar situation was we ran a PMRE customer contest again for another year. We got to meet a bunch of great customers out at PMRE as well. We also ran, and this might be something some people on this call are very familiar with. So we did a bunch of customer stories this year. Our marketing team sat down with various people to understand again more in depth those examples, those unique use cases, sometimes not even those unique use cases, just those use cases of how people are using iGUIDE, how it's impacted their business, how it's been able to change maybe their workflows. And this is something we love to do more of because I think we always learn more from clients when they tell their stories, and clients learn more from clients as well. Nothing can replicate learning from somebody else who's actually done it themselves. So if this is something that you'd ever be interested in, we'd love to hear from you. We'd always love talking to clients about their use cases and their workflows and how things are working for them. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to connect you at any time to set these up. And then finally, I wanted to go through a couple of quick, unique, I guess, use cases. We kind of talked about that a second ago, that not everybody does real estate, not everybody does insurance, not everybody does architecture and construction. And sometimes there's just funky use cases in between. And this was a really, really exciting one where there was four private jets scanned in order to create those floor plans and in order to get that virtual tour of what was going to be rented out on these private jets. So that's a really unique and different use case. I've also seen Cybertruck scanned. I've seen just regular truck scanned. Boats have been scanned before. So this isn't a tool that is only unique to just houses or commercial spaces. You can get very more creative with it if there's ever a use case that comes up. Another exciting story earlier this year was that a client actually took the iGUIDE out and created a virtual tour of a kidney transplant center, shot the existing space as it was, and then used AI to create a future state renovation video. So was basically able to give them the visual of what exists today and what could exist in the future. So again, just expanding beyond traditional real estate and looking at what other use cases you could use with iGUIDE. Perfect. Okay, I'll take a breath there. We gone through kind of some of those really exciting customer stories from last year and a quick timeline of all the different items we've launched. Want to get into a little more depth of the different items and maybe hit on a few tips and tricks, things you maybe didn't know about, maybe things that would be useful to you as well going forward. So first thing and kind of the biggest launch we had, this was kind of at the end of last year and early this year, was the Planix R1 camera. So you can see it there in the image, and it's obviously a bit more of an ease of use and a bit more durable of a camera. So it's got that shield on top. I will say I'm really excited. I haven't had as many people forget the lens cap on top of the camera like there was with the Planix Pro when I used to do training. And if you do still have the Planix Pro, I do recommend giving yourself some kind of signal to always take off that lens cap because that's something that I used to see more than I would have liked. But that's kind of one of the iterations that we made on it. We gave it a full shield, so it's a bit more durable when it's out there with you. There's also 6-hour battery life with it, and it uses the Planex app. I will say, I have talked to some people recently who've told me they're not using the app yet. I would recommend if you're not using the app to get yourself that app and get on there. It's going to be very similar to if you're using the desktop version, the older version that's still out there. It's going to be very similar and the same, but it's a better experience. So if you haven't moved over to the app, I do recommend you move over to it. And the other thing I find really exciting with the R1 is that you're able to upload directly from site using our submission, our way of submitting right directly to the portal through the app. What something I don't think everybody knows, and I wanted to call out, is that there is a way to do this with the Planex Pro as well. There's a couple of additional steps that you have to take, but if you aren't doing that and you want to start doing that with your Planex Pro, please feel free to reach out to us. We have a quick help guide on exactly how to do that, and we're happy to help you change that workflow if that's something that would work for you as well. The other thing I did want to call out, and this is like a little bit of my tip and trick with the R1. So people always ask me all the time, what's the front, what's the back of the camera? And there isn't really a front or the back of the camera, but I always say the start button, consider that your front of the camera. So the visual that you're seeing right now. And well, this isn't necessarily something that you have to do. Sometimes when people mention to me they have issues or they're struggling with line of sight or alignment during their scans, a tip or a trick that a client actually taught me that I thought was really good and I'd share with everyone is if you keep that front facing of the camera faced in the same direction for every shot. So for instance, if I'm shooting and I've got the front facing this way and I move it around, it actually means that in the app, all your scans, that little arrow is going to be pointed in the same direction. So it makes it a little bit easier to align if something does get out of line, because you know if it's twisted, it's not in the right direction and you just want to move it the other way. So that was a really exciting tip and trick that I learned this year. So I thought I'd share that with everybody as well. The same thought applies with the Planex Pro. If you're still using that, I would just use the USB as your front of the camera and keep it in that same direction. Okay. Another one of our exciting launches this year was the 2D furniture and objects. So I hinted at this earlier. And we launched this in April this year. So if you're ordering premium iGuides, you can now see non-fixed furniture and objects within all your iGuides. So on the screen is a nice example. It gives you the opportunity to envision the space as it exists today. So you can see where, the furniture is, where the fixtures are within the kitchens. And this doesn't just apply for real estate. This also applies for commercial spaces as well. So we have objects for residential spaces, but we also have commercial spaces like offices, retail stores, restaurants, and other spaces as well. If you do want to turn the fixtures and the objects off, there is the ability to do that on both an iGuide basis and a default basis. So if you ever want to set up your defaults and you just don't want to see it, maybe you're someone who likes to give them the vision of the space themselves, you can turn that off by a default, but you can also turn it off on an iGuide by iGuide basis. Personally, I feel it looks really, really good for stage properties because you've already done all that work staging the property and you're really just laying that out in the floor plan as well. Okay, trucking along. I promise we're almost at 2026 and what's coming. But we did want to go through a little bit here as well is the industry specific reporting and really the iGUIDE tag report, which is new and we just launched this year. So you'll see on my screen the industry-specific reporting first and foremost. What we've done here is we know that a lot of our emails were really geared towards real estate clients before this past year, because that's obviously that's where we started and we've expanded since then. But we really did start in that space. And we realized we were getting a lot of feedback saying that the industry reports didn't necessarily apply to them. So we've changed up the reporting a bit. A lot of the information is the same and it's still there, so it won't have really changed. but it won't be in your face that this is a real estate report anymore. We've kind of changed it up depending on the industry that you're in. But really, the tag report is one that I wanted to jump into a little bit more. So I've got a nice example of this on the iGUIDE space here. And if you open up an iGUIDE and there are tags included on it, what you'll see in the details tab of that iGUIDE is the ability to download this tag report. And what you get from this tag report is the tag ID with the color coordination, if you use that, the room name, if the tag's attached to a room, what the tag name is written as, and then any of the content in that tag. So if that's links, hyperlinks, if it's a hyperlink to a video, if it's images, you're going to see that right there on your report. Now, what I really like to call out about this is you can actually click this report and those tags, that tag one there that's underlined in blue, that is a hyperlink and it's going to take you back into the tour on that tag, which is really exciting. The other thing here that I like to emphasize is that everything you put into those tags is coming out into this report. So I don't know if people know this, but you can insert multiple pictures per tag. So you're not limited to just one picture per tag. And there's a lot of different use cases that you can use for tags. I will say, when I get on a training call with a client, I always learn about a new case that someone has used every single day. I'll give a couple of examples. In the insurance space, sometimes I will see zoomed in photos of specific areas of interest that'll be tagged and then tagged in a specific color. So maybe red is a certain reading that needs to be done on a different device, and blue is where water damage occurred. But sometimes I see even in the real estate space, that there is, someone will include a website link to an appliance, like maybe it's a really high-end stove, and you want to show exactly what that stove is and have a link right to the website with where it is as well. And I did see someone ask there if there's videos included in tags. Yes, you can include videos in tags. I don't believe you can do that in app. So you can add in app, you can add photos, both from the device that you're using, so the library of the device you're using, from the device's camera. So if that's a phone or a tablet, you can take a picture in real time and add that into the tag. And you can put text in during real time or real time tagging, as we call it. After the fact, when the iGuide's been created, there's also a tag editor right in the portal. And from that tag editor, you can move around the tags, you can delete the tags, you can add new tags, and then you can also add some additional formatting. So hyperlinking videos, hyperlinking pictures, adding additional, if there's a big wall of text and you didn't want to type it on your phone, you can copy and paste that over as well. Okay, so there's lots you can do with tags. I know that's a bit of a tip and trick there, but you do have this report now as well, which is really great for being able to just quickly download, see where all your tags are, and being able to quickly jump back into it as well. Okay, and then I did want to go through quickly these two integrations that we brought up in 2026. So the first one is the Xactimate integration. So we've been working with Xactimate for a while, but we're really excited to kind of further this partnership and further this integration. So for all iGuides that have an ESX file or an Xactimate file with them, once you pull up the ESX file in Xactimate, you're actually able to pull up the 3D tour next to it, similar to the image you're seeing on screen there. So this allows you to basically navigate your tour in real time while you're working on your file in Exact. So just furthering that partnership and that visibility between the two. I'll say a couple things just to keep in mind here. If the file is locked, so if you have protected your file for whatever reason, you might not be able to see the tour in Xactimate. So it would be blocked by that. So I just recommend unlocking that if you want to use this feature so that you can pull it up in real time and have them side by side right in Exact. The other really exciting integration we launched in 2025 was the HD Photo Hub integration. So this is an exciting two-way integration where when a new shoot is booked in HD Photo Hub, it'll create an iGuide entry in real time. So you'll have that iGUIDE entry created, and once you're done with scanning the property, you'll be able to enter that data into the iGUIDE entry that's been created by HC Photo Hub, and that iGUIDE file, those iGUIDE files will process right back into HC Photo Hub as well. So it's kind of like a one system integration to make everything easy and more connected for you as well. And that's the newest one launched. If you do need instructions on how to set it up, please feel free to reach out to us. We've got a good instruction guide on how to extend the two integrations there. Okay. We are almost there. We'll let you guys get your exciting 2026 sneak peeks in a second. But another thing I did want to call out as well was the create page changes, specifically around the advanced drafting service deliverables. So we launched earlier this year. We heard a lot of feedback that people were really excited about some of the CAD packages and 3D packages that we were offering. But sometimes they didn't need the full package. They really just wanted individual services, like maybe a reflected ceiling plan or exterior elevations, or maybe they just wanted a 3D model and one or two of those pieces. So earlier this year, we made the decision to break that up and give people the ability to be a bit more customizable with them. So if you're now able to go into, when you're using the create page, if you select architecture and remodel or facilities management, you're now going to see an option that looks a little bit more like what's on the screen here. So you're going to pick your base package. So that could be your iGUIDE Premium or your iGUIDE Standard, or it could be the advanced drafting package. So that includes the plotted PDFs with everything included in there. And then you're able to pick out the different components that you might want. So you'll see here on the screen, reflected ceiling plan has a little dot next to it. You can check that off. Same with exterior elevations or roof plan as well. So we really just wanted to give you guys more of the ability to break up exactly what you need. So you don't need to get the full package with everything. You can pick and choose what comes up. A really common ask was often for a 2D space, but with exterior elevations. So we really wanted to give people what they actually needed and what was the best use for them. Okay, I will now hand it back over to Cass, who's going to get you guys a really exciting look at what's coming. But thank you for your patience for running through 2025. Hopefully there were some good tips and tricks in there as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Kyla, for taking it away from there. And I'm going to steal center stage here. I am a little shorter than Kyla, but see if I can stay in frame. Okay, so what's coming in the new year? What are kind of our New Year's resolutions and fun things that we're going to do? So firstly, we want to do some site plans. So what does this mean? Effectively, we hopefully all know, as all of you are existing customers for the most part, based on the poll, we do a really good job of interiors of a variety of spaces, everything from airplanes to large commercial spaces. But now we're going to go outside. This is primarily targeting residential real estate, because if any of you have purchased a home, you know that if you're purchasing like a detached home or even a semi-detached home, you're not just necessarily purchasing that dwelling, you are also purchasing the land it sits on. This can of course be expanded to other use cases as well, but the primary use case here is residential real estate, to give that whole picture. Next, we're going to look into branded floor plans. I also call this kind of our branding template. We're expanding effectively our agent banners, which some folk may be familiar with, to kind of have more options. And I'll dig into that in a little bit as well as what that means. The next thing is viewer enhancements or 3D tour enhancements, specifically for mobile devices. So this is after you've captured the space and somebody else is looking at it in our 3D tour, which we internally call the viewer. We acknowledge that smartphones have come a long way. So we have a very desktop focused design, and we need to move that to also include a mobile focused design. It's a very different type of device and interaction. And so we kind of need to acknowledge that, and we want to improve that. So again, kind of just make it feel a little bit more native. And again, I'll get more into that. Okay, so first thing kind of to come up in 2026, as we look to the new year is site plan. So this is an example of what a site plan would look like in the viewer. So you can see here on the left part with the map, we have that whole site. So now you can see the outside as well as the inside. And this is effectively like a bird's eye view type diagram. Similar to kind of our 2D furniture features that Kyla covered earlier, we've kind of taken inspiration from that and have documented things like trees, garden beds, etc., so that you can really get a sense of what is in that space. Next, we have, again, areas that are important, things like the grass, the driveway, backyard, etc. So while we don't have rooms outside, we do have areas that are different from one another in the exterior. So we're just bringing some acknowledgement to that. I am going to just hop out of my slide deck, though, just to kind of show off what this looks like in the viewer. So here we can see this exact same space in the outside. So similar to our existing tours, you can see that here we're going to scan the pool, go around the pool. We have this like dining area. So exact same kind of interactions that you can expect. It's effectively, a site plan is effectively like a floor in our viewer. So like how you have the main floor, second floor, etc. You now have an outside floor, if that makes sense. Or it helps you think about it. And as you can see, you are gonna need some additional scans of the exterior if you are interested in the site plan, so that we can show all of those things and collect all of that wonderful detail and demonstrate that for you in the site plan. So the next thing I did want to cover is agent branding or branded floor plans or styling templates. We've workshopped a number of names in a Planstar. So if you have a suggestion, I'm all ears. But basically what we're interested in is expanding the concept we have right now of agent banners to include a little bit more functionality and either let your brand stand out or a real estate agent's brand stand out. I actually do want to call out that this is not just a real estate feature. I've talked to a few folks in like insurance who really like the manage banners and like the banners feature because they'll put like the contact for like the customer success rep of the insurance brokerage who is dealing with that client or any of that kind of information they'll include. I've also talked to folks in the AEC space, specifically in like construction, and they'll similarly send the same thing to their client to say like, hey, here's your as is scan. And in the top right hand corner, as we're talking about, you know, our dreams and plans for this space, if you have questions about contracting or like the tile guy, like they'll use that as a means of like contact information. So it can be really helpful, and it can be really helpful to help your brand or your client's brand stand out. So some specific things that we're looking to add are custom colors for the floor plan. So we do have our 5 color schemes out of the box, but for some folk, they maybe want to use their color of blue, or they have like a soft beige that they want to use. And it's just a couple hex codes different from what we have out of box. And so now you can change that here. And the nice thing about it being part of that banner or branding template concept is that you don't have to, you know, change those hex values every single time for every single iGUIDE. You know, if you get the same branding colors for a variety of iGUIDEs, you can just apply that branding template, and that agent banner and that color scheme will all come with it. So that's kind of the fun stuff there. The second thing that we're delivering in with respect to this is a slightly more branded floor plan. So we have like our very measurement centric PDF that we deliver right now, which is really good for RMS and ANSI, which of course we adhere to, and really good for accuracy. Like insurance uses that for like to help, you know, with a bill of materials or something like that. So that's really wonderful. But when you're a real estate agent and you're advertising like the floor plan, you typically only get a couple tiles in the gallery for your floor plan, and you really want to stand out. So the idea here is to create a kind of a net new PDF deliverable that's a little bit more branded, a little bit more compact, doesn't have all those numbers and stuff at the end that you then have to remove when you're posting it. So that's kind of the concept there. And we're hoping to reserve an area in that PDF as well to have maybe a larger logo than you might have in your agent banner. So that's kind of the concept there. If that makes sense. And the last thing, I know it's covered in obscurity here. So we're deep in what's called discovery mode in our viewer. So we do know that understanding and orienting yourself in a space regardless of your screen size and your device, is a really important problem to solve. And we're still working on different types of ideas with respect to design that we think will solve those end user problems. So that's why it's all blurry right now at the moment, because we're still deciding between a couple designs. So I don't want to showcase anything yet to potentially mismanage expectations. But basically the goals of this project and what we're kind of testing out is we want to make sure we improve the use of the screen real estate. So of course, I'll even just pop up my mobile phone. This is a heck of a lot smaller than the laptop I'm talking to you on right now. And so similarly, I use my thumb to touch surfaces as opposed to a mouse click. So we really need to optimize our screen real estate to consider those things. And similar to that, kind of like the third bullet there, is we currently have our interface with a lot of stuff on the screen because there's a lot of value we want to showcase. And we really need to pick which ones we want to give top priority so that you don't get accidental clicks because, you fat finger something and now you're in a menu that maybe you don't understand. So we want to kind of limit those types of interactions and improve the positive interactions. The other kind of problem we see is because the mini map is so small on such a small screen, we want to make sure that we're using it to actually solve a problem with orientation of I'm looking at this wall or this room, where am I with respect to the building? That's what it's kind of for, but because of how small it can be on some smaller phones, it has difficulty solving that problem. So that's also something we want to figure out. But yeah, basically just bringing it to the phone. We do know our desktop experience solves almost all, if not more, of those problems. So we just want to make sure we give the mobile phone experience some love as well.
Perfect. Okay. We're coming back to the end really soon. I do see, so I'll go through this in a second. I do see lots of questions that have come in. So I'm gonna guess we're probably not gonna be able to get to everything today, but I'll try and get through a couple of answers. While I'm pulling that up, I did want to say, so we're gonna offer today for attending this webinar, and you guys have been very attentive, which is great to see. We're going to give free processing credits if you're existing client and you book a call with your CSM by January 31st. So I do recommend if you know your CSM already, so that's your customer success manager or your account manager, please feel free to reach out to them or that customer success email. I will say there's a lot of you today. So if you don't hear back immediately, you don't worry. We're going to get to everybody who reaches out before January 31st. But that's a really good offer as well. So customer success at planetar.com. If you don't know your CSM, we'll connect you with who you need to be connected with. But just hold tight. It might not be immediate if everybody reaches out today. And then also if you are a new client, so there was a couple of people who are new, maybe just wanting to see what's up with iGUIDE. You can also book a demo. So go iGUIDE.com, book a demo. And there is going to be some credits there as well if you book a demo with us through this. So really exciting stuff there. And I'm going to take a couple minutes and just quickly go through. I'm going to use the QA questions first, and then I'll do a quick scan of the chat questions and see if there's some we can answer on the fly. Don't worry though, otherwise we're going to try and grab as much as we can and get those answered after the fact as well. So first question I see there is the Planix still supported? Yes, the Planix Pro is still supported. There's still help desk articles on the Planix Pro in our system as well. Planix Core as well, which is the Pro without the Z1 on the top. There's even instructions on how you can connect those two there. Most of our help desk now or help guide will actually split it out between the two. So if there is a difference, it'll say R1 and it'll say Planix Pro, and it'll tell you the difference instructions. So that one should be there as well. Da, 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 da. Prevent the tag from being placed. The errors, including a photo. I'm not sure for that one. I see an anonymous question from someone that sometimes the tags have an error that prevents the tags from being placed. The error is around including a photo in the tags. Any tips to correct that issue? So I'm not sure off the top of my head what this error might be. My guess is it might be a file type that's not supported. So it might be a picture type that's just not supported by the system, and that's why it can't be included. You should be able to include most picture file types from your phone or take a live picture. So your camera on your phone will connect to the app. You'll be able to take a picture with your phone, or I know a lot of people use tablets, and that should be able to connect you as well. If you are getting persistent errors for that, I do recommend reaching out to our technical support team. We can troubleshoot that. If there's a bigger issue, we want to know about it and then fix it on the back end as well. But I do just recommend reaching out to us if there's persistent errors there.
And I'll answer the site plan question. So there's a question here about using the site plan for what is referred to as unfinished or raw land. So this is before construction has started. So this is not a replacement for a survey tool or a survey service. I want to make that extremely clear. That's why the focus really is on real estate as a start, so that there is effectively a dwelling there already. That being said, depending upon your use case, we could in theory just show the land. We will have aerial photography that will help support our site plan so that there's not too much scanning necessarily that you need to be done. It's not a replacement for that level of scanning. Again, more to come in the support article that will be associated with this feature on capture requirements and best practices, but it's not a survey tool. The other idea is that if you're using a survey service, or you're hoping this is a survey service to help measure between posts, I wouldn't recommend it while there is LiDAR and technically we can pick up on certain things. It's really not going to replace a survey service in really my opinion. So I wouldn't use it that way. Property land is developed. So it's a combination of factors. So for example, the example we went through, the question is about the property line distinction for the site plan. So this is a combination of using aerial photography and kind of services, so that we're hoping that we can determine what the property is. Now, in the case of a highly urban property, which is what I effectively showed in the example, we do have fence posts that, of course, we can bounce that lovely LiDAR laser on, and we can draw those fence lines, and we're reasonably confident that's where the property ends and where we should stop diagramming that property. So that's kind of the idea. But if it's a rural property where there is no fence or what have you, we do have other information that we can lean on to estimate the property boundaries. But again, that is not necessarily going to be the most extremely accurate, which is why this is, again, not a survey or a replacement for a survey service. Is there added cost for site plans? Great question. Yes. So it is going to be a paid add-on. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the prices that we have thought right now, but the plan right now, I think I can say this, is it's going to be a flat fee. And we're planning on having it be an add-on to both standard and premium. So that's the idea there. It does have to be human drafted to then have that human drafted site plan. Hopefully that makes sense. And then there's more questions with that.
I think that's the main ones from the site plan.
The other one was, I currently only do 1 to 2 scans in the outside and the front and back. That's not enough. So as you saw with the view example, we had one in front of the pool, in front of the barbecue, by the deck, So there, again, more will come in the support article, but I do know the answer, which is, make sure you scan in front of those features in the back and front yard that are of interest. So things like the deck, the main garden, all that fun stuff. And then you kind of just want to go every if there's nothing in between, maybe every 15 feet or so, because it's just grass, we can keep drawing grass, and we just want to make sure we kind of have a sense of how large that property is, and we do that by understanding those scans. So the more interesting the property is, the more dense your scans. The less interesting the property, or the less feature rich, I should say, the property, the further away your scans can be.
And a follow-up to that question was asking if you can go outside without getting a site plan. Absolutely. So right now we do support like scans outside a property. We won't draft an entirely outdoor facility. So I've seen some people come before and ask for an empty space before anything's there. They just want like a visual. We won't draft that. So our drafters don't have anything to draft. The lidar is not hitting anything. It's really not a draftable space. But going outside around a property, I see this a lot for real estate and also commercial. People want to see what the exterior looks like. I guess a tip and trick there is I recommend keeping the outside scans on the same floor as they would correspond with inside.
Mhm.
So commercial office space like our office right here, I would just do the office and then go outside on the same floor. I wouldn't change floors. In a house, maybe you're walking out the front door, you keep everything on the same space.
Mhm.
What that actually gives you is a walk around of the whole property. So you're more than welcome to do that. We see a lot of people starting to do that, and it is actually a requirement for our 3D projects. So if you're getting a 3D, we need that outside. We need to see that visual, and we need that lidar to be hitting outside as well. But yes, you can. The lidar does shoot. I guess there's another tip and trick from this question. The lidar does shoot 130 feet in all directions. So when it's outside, it is going a long distance. So you think about, maybe you're scanning in a driveway, the lidar is going to hit maybe a car 130 feet down the street.
Mhm.
So what I tend to suggest if you're having issues with alignment outside, because there's so much more data that the lidar is picking up, I do suggest starting just 5 feet from the house. So walking out the front door, starting 5 feet. And then if you are going to scan farther back, moving back in a straight line. So 10 feet, maybe 15 feet behind, and not just starting like at the end of the driveway and then trying to move around. The camera might get lost because there's just too much information there. Okay, lots of questions coming in. I'm just going to have a quick look here and see if there's anything we can answer really quickly. We will follow up again, like I said. Hmm, Oh, this is a really good one, actually, that came up, which is a great point. So I was talking before about the camera and the alignment and pointing that camera the same direction as you're walking around. And someone said the only issue with pointing the camera in the same direction is using the measuring tool, needing different angles for accurate measurements. And this is correct. So if you are using measurement modes 2 and 3, you do need 2 scans that are getting the same area. So if you're scanning, for instance, like there's some windows and walls behind us there, if I want to get that through our measurement modes, I do want to take 2 scans where that's visible, and ideally where either the front or the back of the camera is pointing at that. The reason is the data in the front of those lenses is the best for the photogrammetry measurements. So if you have questions about how to use measurement mode 2 and 3, and it's something you really want to use more, please feel free to reach out as well. Like we would be happy to go over that. But that is a good point. So if you are doing that, you do need to keep that in mind if you're using those measurement modes, and there's things you need to measure as well.
Mhm.
We got that one. I'm just gonna go through exportable as an Excel file. Oh, actually,
Oh, no. Yeah, my team is the one who worked on the tag report, so I can conveniently talk about that. So it's not exportable as an Excel file. That's in large part because uh, so we debated between a CSV and an Excel. With CSV, it doesn't support rich media. We opted for a PDF because this was targeted primarily at the insurance industry. And from talking to quite a few customers in the insurance space, they really wanted a PDF. PDF and photos is really how a lot of them operate. It would be significant work to do an Excel file, so we just opted not to do that as of right now. If that is something that you want, like please continue to tell us and we can pivot in that direction. But the desire to do it as a PDF was really high. And of course, we have other PDFs, so we're familiar with PDFs, and so that's what we opted to deliver. And the folks that we talked to found that to be the best use. Again, because also that hyperlinking, like kind of all the stuff that Kyla showed, PDF was a good file format for that.
And I think this one's a little bit related. Will it be attached to the ESX file? So if we submit files, can others see it? So it's not
Mm,
directly attached to the ESX file. You would have to download the PDF file separately, and then you can submit it as like supporting documentation. So that's kind of the idea behind it, is it's a separate file you can use as you feel, and you can submit it if you need as well. So that's a really good question there.
mhm.
Um, okay. Uh, I'm just going through and seeing if there's stuff we can answer really good. Okay, we asked the processing fee, good. It's gonna be a
Yeah,
flat fee. We
flat fee.
covered that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Lots of site plan questions, so that's really good to hear. We will follow up, so don't worry if like everything isn't answered with that yet. We are gonna have a full support article before that's launched. Will the recording be available of this webinar? Absolutely, yes. The webinar recording will be available. It will be sent out after the fact, so keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yes, I acknowledge the snow in Canada.
So the question for that one was, I'm in Canada and right now the site plan would suck to create with all the snow. So yes,
Yes.
we do know right now scanning outside with the snow is its own challenge.
Yeah.
And occasionally as well with the rain. I know that's a question I get at times as well.
Yeah.
When scanning an outdoor floor, this is, I'm not sure what that one was getting
Floor in the
to.
house is small relative to the land. The rest of the floor plan seem quite small.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll read out this question. When scanning an outdoor floor, if the house is small relative to the land, will the rest of the floor plan seem quite small? So I think what you're getting at there is when you scan and the house is pretty small, but you've scanned outside and you've scanned the outdoor space, it can sometimes look like the floor plan is about this big and there's lots of space around it. I'll answer this in two parts. So the first part is about that floor plan and the space. I do see that come up from time to time, and we do have an automatic feature in the back end. If you go into your edit defaults for that specific iGuide, you can actually zoom to panos or walls. And what that does is it'll actually show the full iGuide with all that extra space outside and all those clickable parts, but it'll zoom it in more to the floor plan. So that is something that comes up. The iGuide by default is going to optimize for every single scan. So if you took one way off in the distance, it's going to try and include that and try and center the whole thing, which is why you sometimes see those floor plans come up really small. This happens a lot with radix spaces as well, because like I mentioned before, that 130 feet in the distance is maybe picking up a tree where you don't even see the tree. So that's the LiDAR is picking up there. So there is that automatic option. Now, in terms of the site plan, I think it's
Yeah,
going to
I'll
be,
comment on
yeah,
that.
perfect.
So for the site plan, this is actually one of the benefits of the site plan. If you're scanning an exterior space that is of interest, we won't put that main floor plate in the viewer along with the exterior. So that the benefit is it's on a separate floor and it's legitimately on a separate floor because we're looking at different information. And we're only putting the piano circles that are exterior on that exterior. And so that site plan will be effectively right-sized for that view window. So that is a benefit. Now, if you do have like a drone aerial thing, it will still sit outside of, but it shouldn't be as severe of a problem that you're seeing right now with a small house, let's say on a big parcel of land, because those two things are effectively occupying the same space. They're kind of conflicting, whereas that won't be true when we effectively strip the exterior as its own floor.
Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to give a quick look here. I think we've answered a lot of these live or the ones that we can answer live.